Over the past 3 years of having this YouTube channel, we've painted up so many kill teams and other random miscellaneous minis. I used to be really, really slow. Victor was also a lot slower than he is now.
Yeah.
We got way faster. Here's how we did it. Watch this video and find out.
So over the past few years, we have painted a lot of kill teams. In fact, we've painted all of the kill teams. And the nature of running this YouTube channel and getting battle reports out as regularly as we do has meant that we have had to get way faster in how we do it. We're both at the point now where we can pretty reliably paint a kill team in a sitting, but it wasn't always this way. We've had to make some like real intentional decisions and think a lot about our speed painting philosophy and how we get stuff from gray plastic to looking good enough to be on camera in a very short time. When we started this channel, our very first video, which you can check out if you really want to, featured...
Or you could just check out us roasting our
That's true. That's a better video that we actually were able to monetize. So our very first video was a Necron kill team versus an Angels of Death kill team. Actually, it was just a Space Marine kill team at the time. My Necron team took me about 2 weeks to paint, and they looked terrible. Brad's Space Marine team, they look fantastic, but it took you, like, what, 2 months? Like,
it took me a long time.
It took you a very long time.
My first minis being yellow was a choice.
That was a miss. But we have come a very, very far way in our approach and how long this sort of thing takes us. And so today we're going to talk about some of our strategies, how we paint so quickly, and give you some examples of how we do it.
Yeah, recently Victor and I have been doing a little challenge. We're trying to get a 2,000 point Warhammer army each done over the course of a year. And we're just around that spot where our first 500 points need to be done. And you know what? They're done.
They're done.
Should we show that off first, or should we clickbait that now and we'll leave it to the end?
Yeah.
Okay, at the end of the video, we'll show off our first 500 points. But now, our painting strategies.
Yeah.
Painting.
Painting. It is pain.
Painting. You got to enunciate.
Are we doing the, tip number 1 thing?
I think we are.
Okay.
Tip number 1. Okay, my first tip for, making sure you can actually get your stuff done fast, your team's painted up quickly, be smart about your scheme.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, we all have big dreams. We want to have the perfect paint scheme, the most intricate design. It's going to be every technique I have in the book, transfers, all this stuff. But if you're trying to be fast, don't do that.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for that. It's not for when you're trying to be as fast as possible. You can cut colors. You don't need 20 colors in your palette for a scheme. You can have 2 or 3 colors and it will look great.
In fact, I find often it will look better. Unless you're going to paint something to a really, really high degree, having a lot of different colors and this cloth is red and this cloth is blue and his underpants are brown. It adds too much visual clutter unless you're taking the time to really make everything perfect.
Yeah.
I think less is always more with a scheme.
Part of this also is planning what color you're priming.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Can cut a lot of time. And if you have a whole mood to your scheme, okay, I'm using kind of earthy tones, lots of browns, greens, reds and oranges. If you're undercoating the whole model, priming and undercoating the whole model with say a brown, and everything can kind of be worked up from a brown.
Yeah.
You can have instant depth. You can maybe skip shading.
Yeah.
Go straight to highlights. Whereas if, you're priming in black, but then half the model is light pink, it's going to be really hard to work it up.
Totally.
So maybe you either prime in a different color or you don't do pink on this scheme, there's a lot of decision making here. I'll take these Votan that I've been painting up for 40K as an example. I could have primed them black, but it would have been a nightmare to get all this Xandri dust on top of them. So I primed in Xandri dust because I knew that's going to be the hardest color to get good coverage with, and it's going to be the majority of the armor on these guys. Mm-hmm. So you prime with that color, then don't even fix that up.
No, never
Just
fix it up.
Go straight to the other colors, the darkest stuff first usually, and then I just do 1 coat maybe of Xandri dust with the brush as I'm fixing up my messiness.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into later. So that's my first tip is simplify your scheme and pick colors that are close enough together that it doesn't have to be like super, super clean, you know?
Yeah.
All right. What's your first tip?
My first tip.
Is this tip 2?
Tip 2. Tip number 2 is to get good at dry brushing and do it on every single miniature. So there's a bit of like a weird stigma around dry brushing because it's in a lot of like beginner painting videos as a tip, and a lot of speed painters use it as a technique, but it doesn't have to look bad. And I would wager, in fact, that it has to be a very, very well applied highlight to look better than a dry brush. Like, it almost always will give you a better result in no time at all. But true. It is a skill that you need to develop just like any other. Like, eventually you'll get a really good feel for like how much moisture the brush needs, how much paint needs to be on the brush, when to do it, how you can get it into areas without covering everything else. And a big part of developing the dry brush skill is figuring out the order of your operations. So, like, for example, my Tyranids, the very first thing I do is a dry brush all over before I have any details, because I know that once I start doing the blue, it's going to be hard to dry brush the white again, of course. So just like planning your scheme around when you can do these high impact dry brushes, I think is a great way to cut down on so many hours of, first of all, doing highlights that you just don't need to do unless like you want to, then do. But like, you can cut all of that out of your process, and you can also cut out a lot of the like back and forth fixing of like, I got a little bit of blue here and I need to go back with the original coat here. Like, you can just get rid of all of that problem by just starting with a dry brush, dry brushing early and dry brushing often. Yeah. But practice it. Like, give yourself a challenge of like, take a Space Marine that we all have an extra Space Marine lying around and prime it black and paint it only with dry brushing. And you will learn so much about like what you can get away with and how good it can look, because it can look so good. Dry brushing, I honestly believe, is the key. Dry brushing is the key to excellence. I really believe that.
Can I jump on this a little bit? Yes. I think edge highlighting is highly overrated.
100%.
And like, if you're going to be display painting, it's a different story. Yep. This is not what this video is about. But in my opinion, edge highlighting for like tabletop play, sparingly.
Yeah,
you know, like, you don't need to highlight every up-facing surface. Sometimes, and it's also like very case by case depending on whether it needs it. Like, these Votan, there's basically no edge highlighting. The only like highlighting I really did is like the visors, like the yellow on the visors, because the whole thing is so light and there's already enough just natural contrast that I don't think it needs it. Would it add something? Sure, but I think it's like the amount it adds for the time invested is not worth it. However, you know, recently I painted up on this channel my custom chapter for my Phobos Marines.
Right.
And I did a bit of highlighting on the helmets.
Yeah.
And just on the very top. And I think there, it did make a big difference. But again, I'm not edge highlighting the whole mini. It's just like very select pieces of the most, like the biggest focal point of the model.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for general tabletop play, highlighting every surface is a waste of time, in my opinion.
100%. And I think it often will, like, if you see just, you know, an army full of it, like, it's visually distracting too. Like, I think it takes away from the scheme.
It can be.
And so it's important to remember, like, why Games Workshop models on their website look the way they do. It's it's a market. It's like a magazine catalog to order from, right?
They want to show off the model.
And they want, like, your eye to be able to detect every little tiny detail, which is why they're painted the way they are, I think. I mean, I'm not privy to these decisions, but it's always seemed to me like the reason that they are painted in the style that they are is because it shows off every little tiny detail on the model on a white background on a website beside the price, you know? And so I think that it's, you know, if that's your bag, then do it. But I really do believe that it is a counterproductive notion to think that that is what a painted mini must look like and everything else is a compromise, because you have choices.
It's also worth like saying here quickly, is this art? These are all subjective opinions.
It's not art.
They are the right opinions,
Yes.
but they are subjective opinions. If you disagree with us, leave a comment and let us know.
Yeah. It's your turn for a tip.
Okay, mine. Tip number 3. Are we at tip number 3?
Yeah.
Tip number 3. All right, this is something that's been discussed in other YouTube channels. This is not like hidden knowledge, but I think it's often overlooked and it bears repeating. Again, subjective opinion, maybe a hot take to some. To me, coldest take of all time.
Okay.
Skip the wash.
I disagree, but yeah, interesting.
Skip the typical base coat wash, then build back up your base coats.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Waste of time.
100%.
I have recently unlocked a pro strategy for me.
Yeah.
I'm the pro in this situation, which clearly I'm not. But I used to like do the wash on everything, like the typical GW strategy, and it just like kills so much time. And if you just like start your paint job with darker base coats, you know, and then just like don't paint all the way to the edge, and it leaves the natural like shading.
Yeah.
And it saves so much time.
True.
It like cut my painting process in half. And like it takes a bit of getting used to if you're really like your normal strategy is to use it, because it is quite a change up in how you approach it. And you do have to like, it requires more thought.
Yeah, it does,
I think
for sure. More planning.
More planning, but in the long run, it just saves so much time. And like, okay, if you have to practice it and you kind of like bung up one kill team, then the next one's going to be twice as fast though. So it's worth it.
Totally. And I think this kind of ties into another thing, which is like, it just make your own mistakes and experiment and use all the tools that you have access to find like what works for you with this, right? Like, because we're presented by the company that makes this stuff with like the process of a base coat, a wash, some more base coating, and then a highlight. And like that is a way to paint, but that is not the only way to do it. There are so many ways to do it, and there are so many different ways to achieve like what you have in your mind as a completed mini. So skip washes, try oil washes, you know, try slap chop, try contrast, do whatever. Like, don't think that you need to be stuck into one pattern to achieve the same result. There are so many ways to get to completed kill team that you're happy with.
Yeah, I think like an overall point to take away from this is you got to experiment.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to find a process that works best for them. And it might not be the same as, you know, Victor and I work very differently.
Yeah.
But I think we both like have come to find a way to paint that really works for us.
Totally.
And sometimes like watching a lot of content about mini painting, it sometimes feels like you have to do the highlights. You have to do like layering. You have to do blends. But like there's so many styles of painting, and look, like I think I've gotten faster, but I also think my minis look way better than a couple of years ago.
Totally.
And they're faster, and I'm cutting steps. Like I'm doing less and it looks better.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my opinion. Maybe some people would disagree.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
I just feel like sometimes less is more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like all these techniques coming at us, it overcomplicates things. You just like pick the couple that work for you. You don't have to do everything, you know?
Yeah. There's maybe we'll cut this. I don't know.
I don't know how much that really applies.
Anyway, whatever. Tip number 4. Practice. So Brad and I are both musicians, and we went to music school and were tortured by the concept of practice for decades and continue to be.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's like just a mindset that we bring to this from outside of the Warhammer life. But these skills take time, and they take like thousands and thousands of mistakes before they start to give you the results that you want. And I think a lot of people get very discouraged by early mistakes and then just think like, oh, okay, I'll just not do it. Like, I think that's a lot of the reason why you see gray armies, you know? Mm-hmm. But like, just don't be afraid to sink in tons of repetitions of not being happy. You got to push through that, I think. Like, if you look at like the mini painters on YouTube that are, you know, like the truly excellent painters that have YouTube channels, like they have so many hours invested in this thing, and they continue to have so many hours invested in each mini, which is kind of a different part of the conversation. But like, they have all failed so many times, and failure is like such an exciting part of developing skills, and I think a lot of people just get so discouraged by it. And
Part of that too, I think, is like it's not cheap.
it's not cheap. Paint the same minis over and over again.
Yeah, you can strip.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not that kind of YouTube channel, okay?
So yeah, like, don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of criticism of yourself or criticism from other people's annoying, but like, don't be afraid of having your minis turn out as something other than how you envision them at the start of the project. Like, just pick your process, trust the process, and go with it.
I'm still stuck on criticism from other people's annoying. What a take.
It is like, if you show up to a game store and someone just like criticizes your paint job.
Oh, yeah, in that context, yeah.
We're on the internet. We get constant criticism from other people every day in the comment section.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's annoying. What's next?
Let's just do a combined bonus tip.
Okay, I have a good one.
Okay, ready? Tip 5, bonus tip.
Yes. Do not tie your self-worth into your mini painting.
Or any one thing that you do.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I think it's another thing is it's so easy to get like really down on yourself because you see so many good paint jobs and like, we're all just on this path and like, whatever, it's nothing. It's painting your toys. So like, do it how much you want to and don't feel like anyone else's standards need to be your standards. Just paint them until you're happy with them. And if you're happy with them in gray plastic, then like, it's not my bag, but whatever. Just be okay with it. Be okay with it. And that will unlock speed. Your standards become, and I'm not saying like lower your standards, but your standards become your own in terms of like what happens when this miniature is done, instead of like what happens when this looks like the thing from Warhammer.com.
Mm-hmm.
Or what, compare it to what you see at the end of the Ninjon video is like not always productive.
Yeah, totally. All right, should we show off our first 500 points?
Yeah.
All right.
You can go first.
I'll go first?
Yeah.
All right. So we're just going to talk over some like glamour shots we'll take after we film this. But here's 21 infantry and 2 trucks for my Votan army. The infantry took a bit of time.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy I did that test model in the other video that we posted. Because once I got the scheme down, they kind of just paint themselves.
Nice.
Yeah,
totally.
And then the trucks were quick. They weren't as quick as I thought they'd be because, I just had to like reapply the scheme. So I had to like actually think again about, okay, what color goes where. But it was fun. It was fun to have like, because I don't get to do this with kill teams.
Right.
But like, you have a scheme for the infantry, and then you're like, okay, how can I reimagine this scheme on a slightly different model, It's like got some of the same features. It's got like plate armor. It's got like the visor bits. So I'm using the same palette. Yeah. But it's just interesting,
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think, I think it looks great. I think the scheme, it's a very like, it's an interesting armor scheme that's like nice and bright. And I think it's going to look so good with all of them, like all the different armor panels and stuff.
Yeah. So I think like this took me a little longer than the exact like quarter of a year we were hoping for. Just like a few days over.
Yeah.
But I think I'm okay with that because this is definitely like the longest and most time intensive quarter of the army.
Yeah, that's great.
This is 21 infantry and 2 trucks. And I had to figure out the scheme. I did the test scheme and I filmed the painting video on like how I did it.
Right.
The next quarter for me, 21 infantry down to just 16, and that's it. No trucks, no nothing.
Great.
So it's going to be way faster, and I already have the scheme locked in, and 10 of these infantry are just going to be Hearthguard, and they're so much simpler than the Hearthkin.
Yeah.
There's like way less detail. They're basically Terminators.
Perfect.
So they'll be way faster. Then I think I'm going to get some of those Thunderkin in. Do you know those guys? They're the ones in like... So. The kind of like the mini mech suits with the huge guns.
Oh yeah, those are awesome.
They look cool. There's gonna be I think 6 of them, but they are gonna be a bit annoying to paint. I think because they're like in cages, So I think I'm gonna have to do sub-assembly. I think you
Yeah.
just gotta sub-assemble them, or else like painting like a face through the cage is just gonna be impossible.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm really excited to get on to the next chunk, and then one of my chunks is just gonna be 2 hecaton land fortresses.
That'll be easy.
So that'll be easy,
Yeah.
and then I'm hoping at some point during this challenge, they're gonna release like a bunch of new Votan stuff along with the codex.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't expect a bunch, but something.
Well, there's speculation it might be like wave 2 of their
really?
army release.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so now this is my first 500 points of Tyranids. It's worth noting, part of the reason I picked the Tyranids was because I wanted to give myself a speed painting challenge and paint a ton of friggin' minis. I kind of regretted that halfway through the first mini, thinking like, oh, I've got a ton of these left. But whatever, here they are. There's 30 some odd here. Hormagaunts, Barbgaunts, which I don't love. Neurogaunts, which probably won't make the final list, but I just wanted to throw them in and get them painted here.
Mm-hmm.
This was a bit of an adventure. It's funny, the scheme evolved as I was doing it, and it got so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 10 Hormagaunts were the first thing I did, and those took me, a couple days. The Screamer Killer took me a night, but then everything else, so the Barbgaunts, the Neurogaunts, the Neurotyrant, the Leapers, was like one sitting, getting all that done. And it felt great to just like throw paint at these things and finish them. And are they going to win Golden Demons? Probably not, but I'm very happy with them. And, one thing with a Tyranid army is how good individual models looks kind of doesn't matter. Like the whole cool thing with the Tyranid army is like the impressive horde and the bright colors. And, I think I really can't wait to see 2,000 points of these on the table. It's going to be a bit of a slog to get there, but yeah, I think I'm really happy with the scheme, really happy with how they've started. I haven't picked a detachment yet because
Me neither. Huh?
yeah. But so, any Tyranids players, hop in the comments. Let me know what you think about this plan. So I really like the idea of the Vanguard Onslaught. It looks like a fun detachment. I think the Death Leaper is the coolest model ever made by any company, and I want to include it.
Oh, yeah. What about the Brain guy, though? The Brain guy is so cool.
The Brain guy's cool, but I don't want like an army of brains,
You don't want the Brain detachment.
I don't want the Brain detachment.
Yeah.
I want either Vanguard Onslaught because I think like those are the coolest minis, but I hate gargoyles and it's kind of gargoyle heavy. Or monsters. Like that's the big stompy Tyranids are so awesome. And so maybe I'll do like kind of a bit of a monster mash list. I don't know what I'm going to do. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you prefer in the comments, because I haven't played a single game with or against Tyranids in this edition. And so, I'm kind of going in blind. I do know what my next 500 points is going to be, and that is 30 Gene Stealers. I love the Gene Stealers. I don't care what detachment I'm playing. I'm going to make them work because
Mr. Steal Your Gene.
Yeah, they're the best. They're just like, they're so cool. And I think having 3 squads of 10 of them is going to be awesome. Yeah. And no matter what detachment you're playing, it's going to be a pain in the ass for Brad to deal with. So I love that.
Nice.
But I think it's going to be a fun and also kind of torturous thing to just sit and paint 30 Gene Stealers. But
yeah, you are putting yourself through something.
Yeah, I am. But I think I'm kind of looking forward to the challenge. I mean, so this 500 points, was spaced out over a few months. But in that time, I painted 2,000 points of Emperor's Children. So
like we've both been painting tons of other stuff, kill teams, like whatever else, and working jobs,
life, making other YouTube videos. And so it's like I think it's probably like a full 3 days of painting to get these done. And so I'm happy with the speed, and I think it'll continue to get faster the more and more I do it, because I've found steps I can skip and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I want to jump in and say one more thing before we wrap this up. Look, take a look at my leader, for example. I painted up my E-Champ basically to the same standard as my, fodder.
What about your mutter?
There's nothing stopping me from coming back later in a chunk that I have less to do in, and like adding more detail and like, giving a bit more oomph.
That's such a good point.
Important models. Like, these are tabletop ready. I will feel very happy playing these on the table. But my leader is not really like, there's nothing special.
Yeah.
There is room. I know I just talked so much garbage about highlights, but there's room for really like giving my leader a bit extra love here. And I will probably do that down the line. Didn't have time to do it now. Doesn't mean I can't do it later.
That's such a good point. No paint job ever needs to be done. Even like we varnish everything, you can paint on top of a varnish. Like,
and sometimes you don't even need to revarnish. Like we
Yeah.
use this ultra matte stuff, but like the under layer is so matte
Yeah.
that if you just do an edge highlight, you it's like you can't even tell.
or
it's
even
not
like
varnished.
the slightly more reflective highlight catches light more and like looks good.
Yeah,
Anyway, like,
or just like do a very subtle like another coat of varnish.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine.
you never have to feel like you can't go back and improve a miniature.
As long as you're not doing 20 coats of varnish, it's fine.
I've pushed it, and
Yeah,
it's okay.
you've
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Eons of Battle. Jay has said a lot, like painting is an additive process. We have very many things coming up.
Very many things.
We have very many things coming up, but we also have very many things going on. So I don't know what the next thing's going to be,
Yeah.
but whatever it is, it'll be soonish, and we're looking forward to it.
And these guys are gonna fight soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you meant us. I was like, yeah,
We might fight
we're
soon.
going to fight after this.
Do you want to see a battle report of just Victor versus Brad just fighting in the street?
That'd be good.
Who do you think would win?
I think we all know I would win.
I mean, but I might have a speed advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Yeah. All right. See you next
See
time.
ya.